stay in the Western Conference. Outside of Rockets, I really enjoyed these offseason moves, especially with some updates today. But the Denver Nuggets, I may have to give them a as well too. They ended up trading Michael Porter Jr., an unprotected 2032 first round pick to the Brooklyn Nets for Cam Johnson. They also signed Tim Hardaway Jr. to a 1 year deal, and then they also had a trade for Jonas Valanciunas for Dario Saric as well too. So they've always complained about Joker, like when he's off the floor, how the team just flows and their overall plus minus and how, teams go on a run. So with Jonas Valanciunas playing limited minutes in games where he has to rest, he still has that traditional big feel where he can play with his back to the basket. And the last couple of years, he has, been bold enough to expand his game and shoots relatively pretty well from the corner three as well too. So it's another threat on the floor. Obviously, with Bruce Brown, so excited to come back. The Swiss Army knife. They should have never let him go, but it had to be done. So now he's back. Hope he still got some left in the tank. And then obviously, Michael Porter Jr. was obviously had a shoulder injury, but kind of a shell of himself. Obviously, we kind of knew the writing was on the wall as well too. And I've been campaigning for Cam Johnson for a while for the Denver Nuggets, so to see it actually come into fruition was pretty dope as well too. So you still get a sniper from three, and you get a much better defender. And outside of his shooting, he can at least give you some straight line drives and finish at the rim as well too. So Nuggets definitely got a W. Only thing I really want from them is probably another base guard. But like I was telling you, Warren, the other day, I was like, I still see a little bit potential in Strother. We'll see where his development goes and what the new coach decides his and defines his role and whatnot as well too. But I really like what I saw from the Denver Nuggets offseason so far. What about you?
No, I mean, I love it. I especially considering they haven't done anything to help Jokic since they won the title. Literally, I mean, to me, they almost did like the Mavs model of right after Dirk won that ship, they just didn't retain any of those people. And actually, it's the same thing. I think they ended up bringing Tyson Chandler back like 2 or 3 years later and tried to bring some of the people back a couple years later, but like it wasn't the same. So, hoping this isn't that. But yeah, this is the best offseason I can remember for them in a while. I think the Cam Johnson thing is great because he's probably a little bit of a better defender, and I feel like he's going to be more consistent, especially hopefully when the playoffs come around. Michael Porter Jr. just kind of feels like he gets scared sometimes in the big moments. Uh,
Yeah, overpaid too.
yeah, yeah, and that really is the biggest issue is that they had to honestly what we just talked about with Jabari Smith in terms of the cost of doing business. Like when they had him, he was a young asset, so you're gonna keep him around. And at the time, that's what the market dictated. So he was getting like wasn't like almost 40 million a year or something like that. It was
Mhm.
really crazy. So now like yeah, you trade him for a player that is very comparable but making like half the amount of money. And so then that allows you to then go in and add your Bruce Brown and add your Jonas Valanciunas. So no, I like it. They have a backup big who's not, Valanciunas isn't amazing, but he's also not 100-year-old DeAndre Jordan. Like they literally were putting DeAndre Jordan out there is like in real minutes to back up Jokic. So
Yeah.
that in itself is a huge boost. And then you're basically swapping Bruce Brown for Westbrook. So that's the one where I'm like, I mean, we'll see. I think that Westbrook was fine. I think
Yeah.
Bruce Brown looks well. There's a reason that Bruce Brown was able to sign such a small contract because he hasn't played that well
Yeah.
recently. So we'll hope that he can, get back to that. But I think for them, it's also going to be about like the development of Strother. That's going to be huge if he can play.
Yeah,
And,
absolutely.
Peyton Watson, if he can like,
I don't know, bro. You can you maybe I can see into the crystal ball. I don't know, man. He gave me like Cam Reddish vibes. I feel like he's gonna be that type of player, but I could be wrong. I don't like to rule out any nigga with potential and whatnot, but right now how it's going, I'm just not sure. But if he can trend in upwards, I'm just like, all right, cool. But we'll see.
yeah, yeah, we'll see for sure. But I think this gives them, it feels like they have depth again. Not crazy depth, not like
Yeah.
depth we just saw in the finals, but enough that it doesn't just feel like, all right, when you're when one of your five goes out, like it's just over. That's how it's felt
Cooked.
the past two,
Yeah.
3 years for them. Yeah.
Yeah. And let's not forget, they still forced the game. Obviously, they got a little smack, but they still forced the game seven. Aaron Gordon had that hammy injury. And like you said, now they have depth. You know what I'm saying? So it's gonna be interesting to see if they make any more moves. I'm not really sure how much wiggle room they have, but it's a good sign. I still see them being a top four seed, and depending on how the matchups are, they can find themselves in the Western Conference Finals when you have the best player, and then even the NBA Finals. So really happy, really satisfied with their offseason moves, man.